Raya and the Last Dragon is settled in a very specific culture, which is the south of Asia. And we have never seen it in Disney before. But the message that the film has is very universal. So how important was this contrast, and why exactly did you choose this culture instead of any other one?
I'll start and then hand it over to Adele. Well, we started off, we had the idea of the Dragon River, and we knew the dragon was going to be an Asian dragon who respects water, who is about water, who is almost made of water, which brings life, which brings harmony. We knew that. We knew we had the 5 separate lands, and that we wanted, when we thought about what is the kind of story we want to tell, we felt like in the fractured world that we live in, it's a story about coming together. It's a story about working together for the greater good, despite or even because of our differences. And we went on a first research trip to Southeast Asia and literally fell in love with the culture, with the beauty, with the textiles, with the food, with the architecture, but most importantly, found the embodiment of this idea. And there's so many countries in Southeast Asia. Each one has so many cultures and religions and traditions and ethnicities and stories to tell. And yet people work, not yet, and people work together to create something together in many of these countries. And it's such an embodiment of what it means to honor the collective that we decided then for that to be the inspirational grounding of what is essentially a fantasy story.
Yeah, and I think the parts where, Southeast Asia is our core inspiration, but then the parts of Southeast Asia that really are reflected in the story of Raya is this, which is beyond the different countries in Southeast Asia, even within a specific country, like the country I grew up in Malaysia, so many different races, different religions, different histories, we even look different. And it is very easy for people to look at these differences as reasons for us to be splintered or to view each other as the enemy. And similarly, you find that in the lands of Kumandra, and even how young Raya talks about different countries. She doesn't talk about them, how fantastic they are in their differences. She talks about them as like, these are all the different reasons we can't trust them and why they are the enemy. But similar to Southeast Asia, really it is because of all these different influences. When you look even, beyond our architecture and our culture, our food, what we eat like today in the streets is because of all these different influences that we have. We would not be the rich, culture we have right now had it not been for all of this. So being able to put that in this fictional realm of Kumandra, and also to show realistically, that even though the land is fantasy, the obstacles that Raya herself face and the people in this land face are very much the struggles that we're facing today. The world can be fractured, and it is not a simple, easy solution to bring people together. It is not going to come in, one magical creature being able to snap its fingers and bring everyone together and solve all your problems. That it is the continual action of reaching out and finding ways to bring people together, even if you yourself grow up with that suspicion. This act of reaching out, even though you might fail, even though you might be betrayed, that it is something you have to continually do because it is the only path forward for us. And we felt like, that was very much the spirit of Southeast Asia, and that is the spirit of Kumandra in Raya.
So Kumandra is a whole new universe, as you said, and it gives the impression that it would be very interesting to explore it even deeper with other stories and everything. So are there any plans for it, or was it just a single movie and it's over?
We think one at a time, especially in the first original film. All we care about is creating one movie that has all the hallmarks of a great Disney film, if we can, and then something fresh in it as well. So we realize that we've created, as our production designer said when I introduced her to the project, she's like, we're designing 5 movies here. That is a lot. So there is so much more that can be told. We're lucky that we sit in the Disney tradition, and the films tend to have a continued existence and a continued storytelling in books and theme parks and series and things like that. But we don't think about that at this point. We think about the one journey of the one movie and of these characters, knowing that behind us we have the great Disney tradition of characters that people love come back.
But when you think about all the research and all the backstories of all the characters we didn't use, all the stories we didn't tell for every single country, because we have this in-depth development process, honestly, we probably have enough for movies for every single one of those lands.
as you said, both Raya and Namari are two very strong, empowered women. And it maybe started with Mulan lots of years ago, but especially in the last 10 years, we have seen lots of films about, and lots of stories about these kind of women, these strong women, these independent women. How important is this creation of reference for the kids nowadays? And not only in Disney animation, but also in Star Wars, in superheroes and everything. How important is it for you?
It was hugely important, but we didn't start the story thinking that we want to tell stories just about female empowerment. I happen to be a woman, and so the stories that are most interesting to me are going to be, female forward. So growing up, a lot of my influences were like Hong Kong action movies, where the girls, even if they could be the mean girl, the villain, the love interest, but they were still, powerful, and they could still whoop ass. And so, now for a Disney movie, a lot of times the Disney heroine is this inspirational and aspirational figure for young women or young girls watching the movie. And for Raya to be a leader, of her land, a leader who's struggling to do the right thing, even though it's not easy, a leader who has, been struck with a lot of misfortune early on in life, we felt like this is a wonderful inspirational figure for young women today to be able to look at and be able to aspire to. And I'm glad you noticed the relationship she has with Namari too, because at the center of our movie is Raya's relationship with Sisu, which is this warm female friendship, but her relationship with Namari is the other side of the female friendship coin, that this is someone she has deep history with, that she knew as a child, and that they grow up wanting to kill each other, but behind that there's also a lot of respect, and also a fascination with each other. So these are two friendships we don't see often. And the last point I'll make too, even though we've seen a lot, many more movies about strong, empowered female characters, what we found in the development of Raya is that a lot of these female antagonists tended to be sort of the same archetype, which is they show up perfect, even though they're powerful warriors, but their character is already perfect. And we knew we didn't want that for Raya, that she is human, she's flawed, she makes mistakes, she rejects the dreams of her father early on because she thinks it's naive, and that you get to go on this journey with her and fall in love with her and see, and be with her, feeling that she might be right, believing that you can't trust the world, and then going on that journey and realizing there's no choice but to have to pull people together, to have to trust them if we're going to have any shot at surviving.
Yeah, I want to add to that because to me, there's still a lot of opportunity to make more movies to catch up with the variety of heroes that I've seen, male heroes that I've seen of movies for so long, different types. And, it's not like we go, oh, well, for, 50 years, we've had a lot of male heroes. Is it time to shift? It's not how we think exactly. And yet the character organically grows. And it was important to us that her problem is not her gender. Gender is never brought up in the film. Every crowd is 50-50, whether they're on the battlefield or in the kitchen. Sort of a world where we can explore character who happens to be female. And it's not incidental to who she is. It's not incidental to how in the end she solves the problems of the world. She's a great fighter. She can do that as well. But in the end, it's about bringing people together, which is essentially, rather than man, woman, essentially a more feminine trait in all of us. So I think that opening the space for different types of stories and having more of us then in the room telling those stories just enriches the stories we all get to watch.